because I heard that it was on trending on YouTube and I saw it. And then, the next day I walk into my accounting class. It's a lecture hall with like 200 students, right? And the
Yeah.
professor's like, right before class starts, so who here is going to get the new iPhone, right? And then everybody just starts talking, like 40 people unmute themselves at the same time, like, yeah. I was like, all right.
I know.
No one ever talks in this class ever, but that's the question that got it going.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 714 podcast. Today, I got my man Saleem on the podcast again. Like, it's almost been a year since the last episode, which is pretty great. How's it feel to be back? Feeling
Oh,
good?
man. I was just telling Shyam before we started that I'm honored to be part of the list of people that have the opportunity to come back again.
Yeah.
I know a few of my friends and family watch your podcast and absolutely love it. So I haven't told them that I'll be on here, but I think they'll enjoy the pleasant surprise.
Yeah, you told me your cousin, he likes watching it, so shout out to him for supporting and continuously watching us. Like, that means a lot to us, so thank you for that. And
yeah, thank you, Ollie.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on again, making time.
Oh man, no, I love it. I love this, and I love talking with you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I know you're a busy guy. You right before this, you were sending out emails and stuff. So, but how's it been? Like, this year, like last time we spoke, it was, I think, almost a year, and a lot has changed.
A lot has changed. Yeah, man, tell me about it. And the thing about the time too is it feels like everything is just sort of blending together. Like, I can't believe that I've already spent, like, I'm a sophomore now. Like, just like, I swear I blinked ago and I was a senior in high school, and I was just like, man, I'm going to start college now. And like, now it's just holy moly.
Yeah.
Time flies, especially because I feel like these days have been so long recently with all the different things that people are doing and, behind a screen all day. It's hard to keep track of the time when you're not outside, when you don't have a schedule to your day, your morning drives.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I miss that. I miss like just the normal everyday activity that you would do, just walking around campus or like anything, driving. Like, you don't get to do that. Every class is at home on a desk.
Yeah, at home. I know. I love driving personally. Cars are something I'm super passionate about. And even if it's just my simple like morning commute, that's how I go out. Like, that's the time I have to myself before all the work hits, and I'm just listening to my Logic playlist, and I'm just driving to school and having a blast. Yeah. I don't have that anymore. And it's hard to like schedule that time for yourself. It's not the same when you're like, all right, let me just take 15 minutes to listen to music in my chair.
Yeah.
You can't do that. It's not the same.
I know. I prefer like separate areas where it's like work here, like school time over here. Then when I'm in my room, it's a different, like, I just get to relax and stuff.
Yeah.
But now it's all combined, which feels like really weird. And sometimes it throws you off.
Yeah.
And like even the podcast, like I'm used to doing it like, in the study room and outside. Like, now I had to do it.
Don't get me started.
All in my room and shit. So I prefer I prefer in-person podcasts more than like any other way of doing it. So
absolutely. And I'm the type of person too, where I could go home, I could study. I'm lucky enough to have my own little space. Right.
Yeah.
And that's been the same since my freshman year, but I would always be in the BH room, like 9, 10, 11 o'clock, just by myself working, because I like having, like you said, separate space. Even though I can come home, I can, at the time I could bust out my laptop, start, resuming the work I was doing at school. Now I stay at school and I finish it because I like that separation. Now I don't have that anymore. So I couldn't agree more with what you just said.
Yeah. I think it's just like good for your mental health too, like having separate areas where you do stuff. Because once you combine everything, you just feel overwhelmed, like in some aspects, because your brain doesn't really know when to do what, I have a class
when to stop working. I feel like I'm always working now. I always have emails. My classes and my homework is always in front of me because that's all I have to do. So the work never stops, and that's exhausting. Jeez, it's really exhausting.
I've had to remind myself like several times, just go outside my room and like go somewhere else. Like
hop on Discord, play some games with friends, talk with some people. Like, it's not, I totally get that. It's so easy to get caught up on it because there's always something to do, always. And that fact hasn't changed, but man, now I get it.
And you even mentioned like cars and stuff. Like at the beginning of this, like I also love driving. Like since I was like 15 and a half, like I begged my
Yeah,
parents to get my
me too.
permit and shit. So like at the beginning of this, like I just drove like for like 20-30 minutes just around here, like
Yeah,
my like city, just to like get away from it all, just
cool. Yeah,
driving.
no.
And
Man, I do that all the time. I used to go to car shows like almost every other weekend. And, I used to love doing those sort of things like Cars and Coffee, Huntington Beach, Long Beach.
yeah,
And, I
there
used to
was
do it
supposed
so
to be
much.
sorry to cut you off, but
No, no, go.
there was a car show like usually around October, like the OC car show,
Yeah,
like
yeah, bigger one. Yeah.
I used to go every year, like, and it's usually in October, but this year they don't have it. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
it's sad, man. It's sad because I love the communities that gather around that sort of thing. It's so much fun. Like I used to go so often that I would know a lot of people, like friends that we would, how like you have friends that you never talk to outside of like one particular
yeah,
thing. Like I would have friends that I would never talk to, and then I'm walking around in a car show. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? Because
yeah,
like that one time we were standing next together when this really cool car passed by. Like you have like those special moments and bonds, and I feel like COVID really puts like a strain on those because it's going to be a fat minute till
I
the
know.
next time I can go to like a car show, carefree and have some fun.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I love the community and all that sort of things. And on the topic of like just getting in the car and driving, I've done that quite a few times because, like I said, that's the only time I really get to like listen to my music, have the windows down, and get some fresh air. And no, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, it's just like a whole different like environment you just get in that sets you in a good mood. And like car shows, they've like ever since I think I was like 15 or so, like I'd go to car shows pretty often, and it's been like a great journey. But I think your screen froze a little bit. I don't know if you're with me here.
Whoa, sorry about that there. My
Okay.
Wi-Fi seemed to go dip a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't happen too much.
Yeah.
I got like six people under my house right now
Uh-huh.
because what do you call my sister's visiting for my mom's birthday,
Oh yeah.
and she's a teacher. She's working virtually. She's quarantining up in Sacramento, so they made the
Mhm.
6 hour drive just this
Yeah.
weekend to
Yeah, your
come
mom's
down with
birthday
bring my
was
nephew. Yeah,
it was yesterday, right?
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Friday.
yesterday. It was yesterday. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It was fun. It was just all of us, and we played some jackpot games and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
my mom got an Alexa, so we were messing around with that so much. So
Oh
I
yeah,
synced it
dude.
to my Spotify, and since then it just was a downhill spiral into just doing random stuff with
Yeah.
it.
What do you think about like all those voice
Mm.
like robots? Like do you think that's it's useful or
I think they're very cool gadgets. It's like it's very convenient too. Like it's what
Mhm.
if yeah, it's very convenient. It's very cool. But I think what it really helps is it helps like older people. Like and I say this like in a way that Alexa isn't just for young people, but like my mom is going to use it a lot because she has a Spotify account, but she never like listens to music because she has to pull out her phone. She doesn't have like good headphones now. So we set up the Alexa in the kitchen where my mom usually does a lot of work. She does a lot of work on the dinner table,
Yeah.
which is like right next to it. And we taught her how to use the simple commands like, hey, Alexa, play this on Spotify, right? And then now she's going to be able to like listen to her music. It's going to sync to her phone so she can make some quick calls, right? So it helps her out a lot. I think she's going to enjoy the convenience aspect of it. But for me, like, I'll be honest, I don't think I'm going to use it as much just because like, I'm so used to just taking out my phone, making a quick
Yeah.
call. I'm so used to just putting in one of my earbuds and then listening to songs and music and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
So I don't think it just has as much of a benefit to me as it does to her. And I
Y-
think that's like what the target audience for those products are. And if that's the case, I think they're super helpful. I genuinely do. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that although they may be a little bit creepy, there is a lot of transparency around those sort of things. And I know it's a strange fact to have something always listening around your house and all that.
Yeah.
Um, but they have camera covers. They have settings to where you have to turn it on in the morning, turn it off in the morning, and all those sort of things. They have lights when the microphone's active, and
Mhm.
um, I think that's cool. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have the Google one, the Google Mini.
Oh, Google Home or Google Mini. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that one. It's like that one. You have the one with the camera, right? Or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this one
Yeah.
doesn't have a camera. It's just like a small little dot.
It's like a little, yeah. Google, yeah.
And then you could just ask it questions. Like my family just has fun with it, just asking it random shit. Like how tall is Mount Everest and shit. So
there's this cool thing with the Amazon one, whereas if you have Prime, you get like one free daily question a day, or like one or two, three, four. Like it's really fun. So me and my mom have been messing with that. Like I went downstairs today right before this, and I was making my cup of coffee. I slept in a little bit, and I was like, oh, like, hey Alexa, what's the question of the day? And then we all like answered it together. It's fun. It's fun. I love those small little things about it.
Yeah. And even I think Apple released one too recently. If you saw that event, I think it was last week on Tuesday, they released one of their own home minis that they have, and it has Siri instead of like Google and Alexa, but which I think, like, if you're a tech guy, you know, like Siri isn't the best out of those. Like
right.
Three. So I prefer like Google and Alexa more than Apple's Siri, because Siri sometimes isn't like the best, you know, software.
Yeah, and it may not do as much like cool different things. It's not as bad as like Cortana, but like but no, I get that. But you know, one thing that Apple products always have going for them is that they work well with other Apple products. Like I think that's like the large reason why people buy MacBooks, even though they're not as, if you look at power for power per unit per dollar, like it's not as powerful as like a Dell laptop. But you buy a MacBook because it syncs to your laptop. You can see your text messages and
that's me. That's you're explaining me right here, like personally. Like,
and I get that. Like I like, even as someone that like loves computers, I'm not like the type of person that goes off on someone like, oh my god, you bought a MacBook. No, because like there is a thing as paying for convenience. Like that goes right. Like I am totally cool with it. I do that all the time. Like like if we none of us paid anything for convenience, we'd all be driving, you know, to
we'd all be like back in the Stone Age.
yeah. You know, like going, you know, an extra 15 miles. Oh wait, man.
I know. Like I use AirDrop like pretty much on a daily basis for content and stuff. So like just syncing it up with my Mac, it's just with my phone and my Mac, it's seamless. Like I could transfer files like without like downloading it on my computer or anything. It just automatically goes through. And the way I see it too is like, if none of us were willing to pay it a little bit extra for convenience, we'd all drive halfway across town just to fill the tank, right? But no, you don't do that. You go to the gas station, you get your gas, and if it is like, you know, 5-10 cents more, I'm not going to waste an extra 30 minutes of my time to go across town. Like that philosophy is something that I ingrained in myself. Like, oh man, you know, if this works, if it's convenient, if it works for me, then it's worth the money that I'm going to be paying for. Like I always like investing, especially when it relates to laptops. You're going to be working on it all the time, right? You might as well get what you want. So make that investment, you know, and it'll pay off.
It'll pay off. It'll always pay off. Like, you know, value your time. You know, that's all I can say. You know, if you're going to be spending so much time on it, what is it going to come out to per dollar over the next 3-4 years? Like you're going to be paying like $1 an hour, $2 an hour to use a MacBook for 2-3 years. So just do it. Just do it.
And Apple makes it like, they're, like you said, the ecosystem they build, just it like once you have like your first iPhone, then you want to get the Apple Watch, then you want to get like the Mac.
Apple Watch, the AirPods. I totally get it. They have it right here. Like such a strong brand. They have such a strong brand. It's ridiculous. It's one of the strongest brands in the world, I think, in terms of tech companies, especially where they've been able to. And electronics is such a hard field to penetrate too, because you buy a product once and there's not a lot of opportunity for you to rebuy or re-enter the market anytime soon. But the fact that Apple has just been so large and so big, and how they still do marketing and they still get more customers, it's just insane.
I said, like the last event was on Tuesday last week, and they released the new iPhones, and on Twitter
iPhone 12s, right? On
iPhone
Twitter
12, it was like blowing up, #1 trending. So they know how to do it.
Yeah, they know how to do it. They know it's crazy too, because I heard that it was on trending on YouTube and I saw it. And then, you know, the next day I walk into my accounting class. It's a lecture hall with like 200 students, right? And the professor's like, right before class starts, so who here is going to get the new iPhone, right? And then everybody just starts talking, like 40 people unmute themselves at the same time, like yeah. I was like, all right.
I know.
No one ever talks in this class ever, but that's the question that got it going.
Yeah, that just goes to show like how many people are in that ecosystem that love it. And I mean, it's all props to them
No,
for
mad
doing it.
props, mad
Yeah.
props, mad props. They know how to do it. They know how to do it.
Yeah. And speaking of the iPhone 12, like, have you seen like all the specs and stuff? Do you think it's
I
gonna
have
be a good
not.
product?
I'm don't doubt it's going to be a good product. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
it'll be a great product. But I haven't seen it. I haven't, man, if I'm going to be honest, like I have a very old like Samsung phone. I haven't been following phones for like the longest time. Um, but one thing I give credit to Apple as from like a tech perspective too, because people always, like I said, they always like to, from a tech perspective, they always bash on Apple because, oh, you're not getting as much power for what you pay for, whatever. One thing that Apple has that a lot of Samsung phones are, and I have a Samsung phone, is
Mm-hmm.
that the extra price that you're paying for also includes software. I feel like a lot of people discredit that Apple has some
Yeah.
very cool software.
Mm-hmm.
Like the new iOS, what is it, iOS 14, if I remember
14.
correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, the customization on the apps and stuff, like Samsung's had Google themes for like the longest time, but
Mm-hmm.
no, that doesn't touch like that. That was I thought that was really cool. And then they have a lot of airdropping features that Samsung has, but they're just not nearly used as much.
Yeah.
Like I know people use OneDrive, but it's not the most common thing in the world. But
Mm-hmm.
AirDrop, that's a synonymous term. Like people call OneDrive AirDrop. like
Yeah.
it's like Samsung Air. Like yeah, that's what I mean. So Apple has a lot of software going for them. They're
Mm-hmm.
not just a hardware tech company. They're a software company too. And I think that's what justifies maybe paying a little bit more or why they charge more because, like you said, part of that home, that family.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a great phone, successful phone.
Mm-hmm.
From what I remember, after every gen of iPhone, the cameras just get more and more intense and
I
insane.
know,
Like
dude.
at this point, you're just buying a Canon with your phone, like a
Yeah.
Canon camera. Like
They added
it's
a LiDAR like depth sensor to it now, like the
yeah,
Pro models. So like it's gonna be really good in low light. And they
yeah,
have now 3 cameras like they did last year with the like ultra wide, and
yeah,
telephoto lens. So
yeah.
you
And those
got a
made
lot
by
of
iPhone commercials always get me like,
yeah.
whoa, like those
I
are
know.
that's a really good camera. That's a really good camera.
Yeah. And they're yeah, like you said, the software they build, like they're the only I think company, like phone company, that builds their own software with their hardware. Because
Yeah,
most phone companies like Samsung, OnePlus, they get their like an Android software
yeah,
that that's made by Google to
yeah,
actually do the software part of it, while Apple just does all of like both sides of the product,
yeah.
which makes it optimized unlike anything else.
Do you know like what's if I may, like a really cool thing about Apple, like as a company philosophy and all that sort of thing, is that what you just mentioned, how Apple does their software in-house, like I'm sure other companies do that, but that is like a core fundamental philosophy of Apple and their success. Like if you look at the history, of the different businesses and departments Apple has acquired over the past year.
Mm-hmm.
When one of the things that they did, I remember this very distinctly, is they have so much cash floating around. They have so much cash floating around. They make global sales all over the world. So most of that
Yeah.
cash doesn't even touch U.S. soil because it's just in other countries. And if they already pay tax on it in that country, so if they want to move it to U.S., they have to pay taxes on it again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult. And global accounting is just such a oh man, it's such a cluster. So I'm not going to even get into it, but they have lots of cash, right? One thing Apple does is they do two things to move around their cash and to stay successful and grow and expand and be the company that they are. They sell patents. So they sell those technologies that you mentioned. They buy those things and they sell those things. That's the way that they roll. They don't rent. Apple doesn't rent anything. They don't rent this
Yeah.
technology. They don't work with another company.
They have the cash to just buy it, so
They
why
have the
not?
cat exactly. An excellent example of that is do you know how iPhones have like the fingerprint scanning and all that sort of stuff? I don't know
Yeah.
what year it was, so I'm not going to say
Touch
any.
ID.
Touch ID, right? I don't know
Yeah.
what year it was, but I think it was or 2010s around there somewhere. Whether it's a few years below that, a few years above that. When they had this company emerge that was doing this Touch ID stuff, they liked it so much they just bought the company. They just bought the company because
Yeah.
they can do that. Like, oh yeah, this is really cool. We can use it in our iPhones. It's not like, oh, let's work with you. Let's sign a contract deal. You know, you put it on
Mm-hmm.
this many phones. No, they just bought the company. They bought the
Yeah.
entire company. They took the software and they applied it to their phones. And that you look at any of the things that are in the iPhones, the camera technologies, the softwares, whatever this, that, I think Apple just is constantly buying these really cool startups that they like the tech and they're
Mm-hmm.
applying it and integrating it with their own company. And that's really cool. That's a huge reason why Apple is successful. Because if you look at the cash that they have on hand, they could really just buy whatever company they want. They could buy Netflix if they wanted to for a huge billion, multi-billion dollar deal. They could buy Netflix. They could buy a search engine. They could do this. They could do that. But they only buy what they need for their product. They don't just expand. They don't diversify like that. I think that's a very cool philosophy, because then it really sticks to their own guns. When you have a couple $100 billion around, it's so tempting, right? You just want to buy different, diversify your income, whatever it is. But no, they buy what they need. They buy what they need. And when they need it, they have all the cash on hand to do it. So I just think that's really interesting. There's not a lot of companies that do that. Not a lot of companies that do that.
Yeah. Now, and they do it well. Like it's one way to say it, that they just do it, but they do it the right way, and it's successful. So
yeah.
And I know now they're go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, it's just, I know there's a lot of finance professionals in Apple. Like, it's a tech company, but I know that they do a lot of, they have a lot of auditing work done by accounting firms. And not only that, but there's a lot of finance people and finance departments within Apple that handle just that absurd amount of money. Like, like they just, all over the world, they have this money and they have to justify these purchases and, all these different sort of things. It's not just, being able to track it all, but they have to figure out how to spend their money. That is a job in of itself for the company. So they have these huge departments that decide whether or not to buy this, or whether or not to do this or that, or buy this factory, purchase this land. And I think that's just really interesting to think about. Like, it's a tech company, but man,
it's crazy that to like imagine like you're like a part of the team in Apple, and then they just give you like so much money you don't even know what to do with it.
Yeah,
and it's like,
unlimited.
What do I buy? What do I buy with this?
What do I create? I know. Like, what do I do, man? What's the limit? And the fact that you're working for a tech company that may have more business employees than a small credit union, like holy moly, that's insane to think about.
And then they just passed like $2 trillion market cap like a few months ago, right? So that's crazy.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it's absolutely mind-boggling.
And then, like you said, with the services, like they don't really buy out Netflix and stuff, but they introduced Apple TV Plus, and they're starting to become more of a service company. Like even with this new event, they released the Fitness Plus app, like that could be on the Apple Watch. So they're trying to get into the service game, and people get on that subscription, so they pay for monthly things.
Yeah, and I feel like it plays into that thing that we were talking about, where they just have so much money. Like when you have an unlimited budget, why would you buy something and cop out and do it the easy way and spend a ton of money when you can just hire a bunch of people, pay them whatever they need, and then give them a budget of whatever they need and create our own thing, And it's going to cost half as much as trying to acquire a pre-existing company like Netflix, right? Because you don't have to account for future revenue when you're purchasing the company. You can just build something and pay the cost. And I think that's something that they do. Like what you said, like they have their own streaming softwares, and they're launching all this. They're starting to record their own shows and all that. Yeah. And
they released multiple shows, like the original shows that they've created, and they have like the best people working on it, like,
of course. They hire the best actors and the best directors and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It's crazy. That's just insane how far they've come, like since like the first iPhone was, I think, 2007, right? And then
oh man, how times have changed, right? $2 trillion.
That's crazy.
My goodness.
Yeah. So like last time you were on here, we talked about your TEDx group, right?
Yeah.
And so like after a year of doing it, how's it been, even with the COVID pandemic going on?
Man, I would say it's been a roller coaster for sure. It's been a ton of work and a ton of adapting and all that sort of thing. But I'd say the biggest thing that changed, and just to summarize it, and this goes for any organization, anything that you're a part of, like, and I'll keep it general just so it's more interesting, is TEDx started as just a small club, right? As a passion, as an idea, as something that wanted to come to fruition, right? And then since over a year of hard work, putting time into it, and I feel like this goes for any company, any group. I think I froze a little bit.
I think you
froze. Am I back?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was saying is, I think this applies to any company, any organization, any business, right? That
Mm-hmm.
when you put time into it, after a year, when you put a lot of effort and hard work into it, it no longer just becomes a small little club or organization. Now, I think the biggest defining thing about TEDx is that there is a team behind it. There's an audience for it. So it is way bigger than just me now. That's the thing that I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's not like I've had the opportunity at a young age to be able to be such a part of such a that many growing and budding organizations that do cool things. So I have been able to witness for the first time the transition from TEDx just being a small little club with a few people behind it and
Mm-hmm.
a few people interested to now an organization on campus that's widely
Yeah.
recognized, and people want to see it, people are excited for it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's huge, and I think that motivates me a lot because now you got people counting on you, now you got people working
Yeah.
with you, and it's not just my dream, it's other people's dream as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just awesome, and that's defining. So I'd say that's how TEDx is going. COVID threw things for a loop. We were supposed to have our first TEDx conference yesterday, actually, October 16th. That's what we had planned it.
Yeah.
But now the TEDx has been postponed. We're going to be doing it in early spring as well. But
Mm-hmm.
we have all of our speakers onboarded. We closed our speaker applications not too long ago. Um, and it's exciting. I can't wait. I think I've had the opportunity to sit in and see all the speakers and how their speeches are developing. We have a team in house that's working with them and advising them with their speeches, their presentations. We're starting to guide them more towards slides now. They've completed
Mm-hmm.
their rough drafts and all those sort of things. So it's going to be really cool. It's going to be very cool. And
So
man, I
you
just
you work with the speakers to develop like everything as well?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's one thing that I've had experience with since I've been in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Because my senior year of high school, I helped organize the TEDx conference. That was the youth conference that I was a part of, and I did a lot of the auditions. I was basically the one man army when it came to. We only had like maybe 10, 12, 13 speakers. So it wasn't too bad. But I
Mm-hmm.
would meet with them all, and I'd have them send me their Google Docs, rough drafts. I'd proofread them, give edits. I'd ask them to record it and then send it to me so then I could, hear and intonate this and give some advice there. So I have experience as it is relating to do that. And now I do that for a lot of the speakers that we currently have, which
Mm-hmm.
is fantastic because I feel like I can ask a lot more too. I can be a little bit more picky. In high school, it's not like, hey, I want you to conduct some research and get back to me and implement it, right? I
Yeah.
couldn't really say that. But like now I can say, hey, I want to see some research, some statistics, like get in the nitty gritty, like,
Mm-hmm.
APA format this, like, it's cool. Like I like being able to really shoot for the stars and challenge the writing that the speakers do.
Yeah.
Um,
Show your leadership a little bit, guide them on the right
yeah,
track.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And the best thing too is I've been able to share that. So in the TEDx board that we have for the organization, we have two other writing advisors, right? And I've sat down with them and I'm like, hey, these are the different guidelines of TED, so make sure you know these. But at the same time, like I used to show them rough drafts that I've edited in the past and what types of comments I used to leave and what to look for. So it's not just me that's reviewing all the speakers now. It's not just Kira, the co-director of the TEDx conference. We have two different writing consultants, and they meet with the speakers once a month. They go through these things. Sometimes, if I'm available, I love to hop in and just listen and
Mm-hmm.
maybe give one or two comments, but it's really their time and it's really their thing.
Yeah.
But I just like sitting into because then I know what each speaker is doing. So
Mm-hmm.
a conference is a very holistic thing, because you have to make sure that nobody is conflicting with each other, nobody's talking about the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you have
It's
to
a
make
lot
sure.
of
Yeah.
organization that takes place.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to trying to create the order of the speakers because you have
Mm-hmm.
to really weave it well. Where okay, do we want to have all the heavy talks at the beginning? No. You want to have all the happy talks at the beginning? No. You want to web it? Sure. Do you want to have like a really sad talk and then a really happy one and it sort of like takes away from it? Like there's a lot to
Yeah.
consider.
I know.
Um, that's not gonna no, that's gonna be fun to try and plan out.
Yeah.
But yeah. I love it, man. I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
honestly do. I'm
Yeah,
so
that's good.
passionate about it. It's so much fun. And even through COVID, we've just been working so hard at it. We, as in the entire team, and it really shows because
Mm-hmm.
we've gotten quite a bit of traction. I'm so excited for that.
How many people are now a part of the organization now?
I would say since we started in March, we got an Instagram following of. Oh man, I'll pull it up on my phone, but I'll keep talking. We got an Instagram following of X amount. but we have about 70 members in the organization. We have quite a few faculty that has recognized us and wants to work with us for one of our membership series called Titan Talks, which is a workshop series where you'll be learning how to best write a speech and communicate that and all that sort of things. We've been recognized by the president of the university, President Fran Roach, and his wife. They wanted to come out to the event and support the students. And I think that's really cool. I think that's like the starting step of it. And we have 388 followers right now. Since we started in March, I was just like, whoa, that's insane. Our social media team has been killing it. But
because like last year around, I think October, November, we talked, and this was just an idea.
Just an idea. Yeah. And in March is when it became a thing. And since then, woo.
Yeah, I remember like you just asking classmates like in the BH program, like, do you want to join this?
Do you want to join? Yeah. Yeah. And some of them did. Some of them were on our board, and it's fantastic. I get to work with some very, very cool people. And, you know, when you're working with cool people, cool things get done, and it's so much more fun too.
Yeah.
So much more fun. Everybody on the board is just so dedicated and super hardworking. And I feel like we're all taking away and all learning so much from it. And that's really cool.
Yeah. Just when you have like a group of like-minded individuals, and sometimes not even like-minded, there could be conflicts there. And it just like you just level each other up. Like one builds another thing, and then it just keeps growing.
Yeah, there was one thing. Someone on the board said this too, because we were designing. I'll tell. It's like a quick story. We were designing our workshop series, Titan Talks, right? And one of the things is a lot of that was peer discussion. You know, a little bit of breakout rooms between the participants to talk about the first workshop that we just had this Friday was called Brainstorming 101. You know, thinking of an idea, right? And someone on the board said an idea that no one was thinking, but was really right, which is that I feel like this. I'm quoting her words. Like, I feel like sometimes everybody just agrees with each other. Like you look at discussion posts and it's like, yeah, great job, Shyam. Like, I really love the way that you articulate. Like, and that's what everybody says, right? So we were designing like what to talk about in the first like 30 minutes of it, what in the presentation should be included. And she's like, we should put the thing of like challenging ideas, like make sure that like that's a point, because because like I feel like that's something that not a lot of people will do unless it's encouraged. And she's like, we should encourage that. And I didn't think about that, right? I was like, oh, let's just, let's make sure that we're being inclusive. Let's talk about this and let's give instructions. But she's like, no. We should have people like challenge the things that they're talking about, right? I'm like, yeah, that's a really good idea. So I think that's what comes out of having a diverse board, a diversity of thought, and a lot of cool ideas that come out, especially like when you have all like-minded individuals, things slip in through the cracks, but we have such a wide variety of professionals and students on the board, and we really get a very, very thought out, well challenged idea whenever we present something. And I think that's a huge contributing factor to our success,
because that motivates other people to put out their best stuff. Like, it's not going to be just whatever, and then people accept it and it's kind of half-assed, and it's
and feedback is such a motivating thing, man. Like, I mean, you learn through feedback. Like, I learned through feedback. Like, I remember when I was first learning like how to do professional speaking and all that sort of things. Oh man, I would get roasted by my language arts teacher. Absolutely demolished. She's like, nope, this doesn't make any sense. Nope, you sound cheesy. Nope. Like, and she would give me blunt. She used to be so blunt, and I love that, because when you're super blunt, it cuts away. You learn twice as fast. That's the way I see it. And I think a really good mentor isn't one that's gonna hold your hand through things, but one that's gonna, literally, hit your hand and say, do it better, and then they'll grab you and pull you. So that's really funny.
And they say that with the utmost compassion, like, and respect, for you to do better. Of course.
Yeah. The desire for you to grow. Absolutely. That's what makes a good mentor, an active mentor versus a passive one. Really challenging you. Absolutely.
Like, even in some of the discussion boards, like with online classes, everybody just compliments your writing, and nothing really.
It's funny. It really is. Yeah.
Nothing really critical or critiquing anything really. They just agree with it, and I'm like, what's the point of this if we're not gonna improve ourselves?
Totally. Right. Totally. And I get like how people always bash those discussion posts because they're repetitive and all that. And I agree. It's not the best assignment. Like, it is a little repetitive, but at the same time, if you're going to do them and put a little bit of thought into them, just a little bit, and I think you'll like them a lot more. And I know it's tough to do that, especially when you've been doing it like once a week, because a lot of people in their classes do that. But I challenge everybody that if you write a discussion post that doesn't agree with someone, it's a lot more interesting. It's a lot more funner, and
Yeah.
it's a jesting thing too. Like I remember, there's someone in BH called Sam Betancourt, which I always like to mess with and stuff. Right? When I say, "Hey Sam," whenever we do discussion posts for one of our classes, right, I'm always going to comment on your post and I'm going to roast you.
Yeah, he's a fun
like
guy.
No matter what you do, right? And then now Sam will consciously try and make his writing so he'll make it hard for me, right? He's like, because if he doesn't put any thought into it, he throws some words on the paper, he gets his credit, right? And I'm gonna go in there and I'll be like, Sam, you should really work on this. I found some grammatical errors on this, because it's like a joke. I'm taking it like way too seriously, but like we have fun with it. That's our little game. And then now that those assignments are a lot less mundane because we're thinking of each other and trying to one up each other on those sort of things.
Yeah, that makes that would make anyone improve, just having that somebody just going at you, like trying for you to get better. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that even like for me with the podcast, our social media has like definitely helped from people criticizing and saying like, okay, I like this post, but I didn't like this one as much. So I pick like which ones do good.
Yeah.
And I see the numbers and what people like, what people don't like.
Adjust and adapt.
Yeah.
And
it makes a like really big difference when you look at it, when you look at the audience and you make content how they want to see, what they want to see instead of just whatever you want to put out there.
Absolutely. I agree. And I look through you guys' comments on your posts all the time. And I remember this was probably way back when, but it's the first example that comes to my mind is, when we were recording, we had a water bottle on the table, right? And someone said, "Oh man, you should probably rip the label off that bottle because you want to have it open for potential branding opportunities and stuff in the future." I'm like, that's legit advice. Like even though it may not be there yet, but like you have people like, that's the power. Like you have people out there giving you feedback, and I think that's really cool. Like that's really awesome.
Yeah, that's a big plus for having like a audience. Like I really appreciate everybody that supports the podcast, because I learn from everybody, like not just people who come on the podcast, but everybody that listens to it. Like I get DMs all the time on stuff I'm doing well, stuff I'm not doing well, and it improves every week.
Right.
So that's biggest
legit.
part. Yeah,
that's legit. No, I agree.
Yeah. So all right, let's talk about the election coming up here. So like what are your thoughts like going into it? Do you think this election is gonna have a bigger impact than the one in 2016, or is it gonna be relatively
it's very
the same?
interesting. I'm very interested to see voter turnout because I think that's something that's been heavily discussed by both parties and how to do that, how to vote, what the procedure is going to look like. And it's something that I see being heavily advertised in social media. I don't know if it's just me, but in the OC area, I've been getting like 5 texts like a day from like random political parties asking me to text, like sending me photos and like, go vote. I'm like, I voted. Like, I'm good. but no, like I get it. It's going to be very interesting to see. And I'm coming from the perspective too of like, we live in Southern California, which is a very active sort of place, right? And I know that politics aren't as heavily discussed in California, or they are in some of the other 49 states across the country. So I wish I can get that input. Like if I could, I would ask, one person from every state, like, what do politics look like in your state? Like, how do people feel about it? Like, are they as active in it? Or are they not as active in it? Because I feel like it's something that we as Californians talk about a lot. It's super important. So yeah, I'm interested to see that. But another thing too is I'm a super impartial, like devil's advocate too. So like you're never ever going to get a straight answer from me about anything as it relates to politics. My favorite quote, and this is just something that I thought of that I think is really cool, is that whenever someone asks me for my opinion as it relates to really controversial things, my answer is going to be twice as long as anybody else's, because I'm going to tell you both sides. I'm going to tell you both sides, and then I won't, lean towards one or lean towards the other, but I'll tell you both sides, and then
I think that's something that most people lack, is they only focus on one idea and they stick with it instead of really, kind of arguing against it and trying to figure out the actual truth.
Man. I love devil's advocate. I love challenging ideas and all that sort of thing. And I think one key thing about this election is, and I'll actually speak from my perspective as someone that's really into public speaking, right? But I'll talk about that second. First thing is that in the last election, one thing I noticed is that I try and find similarities, right? What was one thing in the last election that would be similar to this election, right? And one thing that hasn't changed is that the current president faces a lot of scrutiny. Like that's always been the case,
Yeah.
right?
There's always
And
that. There's
always, yeah, that's
yeah.
nothing new. That's nothing new, right? But one thing that I noticed in the last election is that nobody thought he would win, right?
Yeah.
That's the same as this election. There's a lot of people that aren't thinking that he's going to win. At least that's my perspective as someone from Southern California. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
But then he won. And the reason being is that because when people go in poll booths, they may vote differently than what they say or what they're outspoken. Because there's a lot of people that they don't speak a lot on their political beliefs, or they hold up a front on a lot of different things. So my thinking is that, or I'm thinking, whatever you want to call it, is if that trend is going to continue to follow, I think this election is going to be a lot less predictive as people think it's going to be.
Yeah. Because you
don't know. Yeah. Like when people step in that booth. Yeah.
Even the polls, like right now, they're leaning towards Biden, but like even the last election, it was leaning towards Hillary. So like, I don't even believe the polls anymore. Like, wait till it happens. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I there's no way for me to predict at all, and I have no idea. People ask me like, who do you think's gonna win? And I honestly, genuinely, because I'm thinking on like both sides, and I'm like, man, at this point, I don't even know what people are thinking. I don't know. I honestly don't know, because it's just. You could flip with a switch. Like that's the way everything is now. Everything just happens so quickly. There's so much happening at the same time. I feel like one thing could change, and then all of a sudden the waves, there's this huge tsunami that goes in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. And the second thing too is I was talking in this conversation with someone else. I forgot who it was, but it was really interesting. Where we were discussing like the public speaking of both candidates, because I'm a nerd when it relates to public speaking. I run the TED Club on campus, right? And I had this really interesting thought, and I wanted to share it with you and with other people, because I think it's interesting. Where historically, right, a lot of the Democratic candidates, they speak differently than the Republican candidates, right? Republican candidates typically are more bold, loud speakers. They speak very strongly about certain things. They're very patriotic, and they spur a lot. They're the ones that, get the crowds going and all that sort of stuff, right? And historically, for the past, 1-2 presidents, I'm talking for the 5-7 years, right? Democratic candidates have been more articulate, more well-spoken. You look at President Barack Obama, you look at Joe Biden. They don't rally a crowd, right? They don't have that same attention like as a Republican candidate may be to get the crowd, going, and this and that, right?
Kind of a lower voice and slower tempo.
Lower, they're not shouting behind the podium. They never do that. And I was wondering, right? Because speaking has such a powerful impact on an idea or how you influence people, right? And I was wondering, like, what if there was because if people say, what if there was a Republican candidate that had more of a focus on policy, but what if there was a Democratic candidate that had the same public speaking ideas and skills as a Republican candidate, right? I think that's so strange. I think that's so strange to think about, because, one of the things is that if people like loud, if public speaking and the ability to captivate a crowd is so important as it relates to politics, that image, a Democratic candidate that would be able to replicate that from a Republican candidate, I think would be very strong. And I just haven't seen it in the past couple of years. I don't think there's a speaker out there that can rally a crowd like some of the Republican candidates we've seen in the past.
I think that has to do with social media too, because people see like loud things, and everything on social media is to grab your attention in a few seconds. And if you have somebody that could do that with their voice, with a speech, then you're more likely to watch it and gravitate towards the idea.
Exactly. This is the example that we were talking about when I was having this discussion originally, right? Is that what if there was a Democratic candidate that could talk about wearing masks the same way as a Republican can talk about not wearing masks? Like that would be so interesting to me. Like, because sometimes people, the Republican side is very outspoken about certain beliefs, and they're very loud, and they really captivate the crowd in that way. And what if there was a Democratic candidate that could do the same thing, but for the opposite idea? I think that would really, really have some people torn between the two sides, because now you have two candidates that are making sense, that are talking a little bit louder, that are grabbing your attention, as opposed to one where all the people who like the captivation go one side, and all the people who like the idea go to the other side. Now that dynamic is changing. And I think from public speaking, like, once again, I think that's really interesting to think about. And I wonder one day if that's going to change, because I think when that happens, I will definitely have my eyes out, because that seems like that would catch a lot of fire. That seems like something that a lot of people would gravitate towards. But yeah, it's just one small observation I thought. So what do you think about that? What do you think about all that?
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like that, if just a change in tone and speech can make a huge impact. Like even with Obama, you know, he was like a statesman, you know, like what you expect of a president, how they speak with like great flow and
poise.
Yeah, poise. Just like he knew like whatever the environment was, whatever he was speaking about, he did it with like such tact that you knew like you were getting like a great speech, you know, every time.
And to add on to that really quick, that's very charming for a lot of people, right? But that's like the opposite of what some people want as well. Some people like the crudeness, the raw, the out there, right? So what I'm thinking is that what if there was a way for a Democratic candidate to display those characteristics? Like, what if President Obama had the ability to go on the stage and then just like yell like Richard Nixon, like you, like you know, like really loud, like out there with the hand gestures and all that sort of stuff. He doesn't do like the hand gestures and the loudness and the pointing and all that sort of stuff. But like that is something that people like love. Some people love that and seeing.
Yeah, because they think it's like they think it's authentic. Like it's that. Yeah, it's the person.
Exactly. It does. It has that raw emotion to it as well. It has that raw emotion to it. It's less calculated, and I think that's definitely an attractive thing in a speaker as well, right? I think a speaker doesn't always, you know, really articulate themselves and be so serious all the time, right? There's a dynamic. Even in the simple thing as intonation, you go loud in certain parts, you go soft in certain parts. It's so important in having a good flow as in one speech, right? But if you're talking about a whole presidential run or a whole presidential campaign or time in the office, like I think that's something important as well, but that's a little bit neglected because people stick to one thing. But I think that if someone had the capability of doing both, it would be a very, very strong candidate. On both sides, on either side, if someone had the ability to do both. So just an interesting thought.
Yeah, because like I remember the JFK Rice speech. Have you seen that? Like the going to the moon. I think that's like the best presidential speech of all time. Like
it's like rallying, man. Like it gets you going, right? Gets you going. Like I've seen a lot of President Obama's speeches, and he has some of the greatest speeches I think out of like in modern times. Because I think I forgot what it was the day he got elected. He went on stage that night and he gave a fantastic speech, right? And it was super heartfelt, super motivating.
Brought the country like together. Not Republican, not Democrat, just everybody.
Yes, that's the one. It was a fantastic speech, right? But there's fantastic speeches of all kinds. It wasn't the loud fantastic. It wasn't like the one that you mentioned with Kennedy. That's another fantastic speech. Totally different kind. And I think that what some people aren't giving a lot of credit to is that they have different audiences as well.
Yeah,
like those.
Because like that one, the Rice one was like in this college stadium. Like he needed to get the country to believe in this program to go to the moon. Yeah, and then with Barack Obama's speech, he wanted to get the country together. But like he knew there was tension, so he had to calm it down and show that. And so he did that with his voice, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's just so strange, man. So strange. I really wish that this is like totally just a strange thought, but like I wish that there would be like 15 candidates to choose from at the very end instead of just 2, because then I really feel like there would be a little bit more diversity. Like it wouldn't be just, you know, 2 candidates. And obviously like there's always 2 in the finale, right? In any competition, any tournament, right? But then like, I'm just curious to see like, what would it be like if there were just so many options, like so many different things to choose from? What would it look like? It's just a random thought, because I feel like people
the debates would be like crazy. The debates would be
man, no. Yeah, it's not realistic by any means. It's just a thought, because I think if there are more people that had a chance to win the prize, whatever it is, right, in a competition, it encourages them to be more unique from each other, right? If there's 15 competitors instead of just 2, there's a lot less ground for you to latch onto. It's not 50-50. Everybody has their own, you know, X amount of percent. And that encourages you to really find your X percent. Otherwise you'll get drowned out because you won't have anything, right? It's not, and I think that's something that's important. We don't have a lot of diversification between the 2 candidates. It's like yes or no. There's only 2 options. And
it's become more of like a popular thing, you know, like who's the most popular. Yeah, like that's who gets the vote. I mean, sure. Like it's easy for people to like vote for the person who they've heard their name a lot, so they know who they are. So I guess that's a part of it, but it should, like, I know, do you know who Andrew Yang is?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I do. I think his campaign was really funny.
Yeah.
I saw one thing that was absolutely hilarious. He had an anime intro for his
Yeah.
campaign. I just thought that was funny. And UBI is such an interesting concept too. I haven't done enough reading on it and enough like research about it. But when I first heard it, I was like, how does that work? And then I did very brief, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's an interesting thought. Like I could respect that. And he was a great speaker too, and he's a funny guy. And
he has a mix, I think, like of being real and also like actually being well spoken.
Yeah, I've seen him debate.
Yeah.
He he's pretty good on his stuff. He was an interesting candidate. Like I'd love to see him again, because I think he said some pretty cool things sometimes. And also his character is really really cool. Really cool to see on the stage. So yeah, no, I do remember Andrew Yang.
Yeah. I would have voted for him if he went and if he came all the way here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that. He was just like, I saw him first on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he just explained everything like so clearly.
So like, clearly, right?
No, nothing, like every policy he had was clear, concise, nothing like out of this world. It was shit that you could actually do like easily.
Right.
And so people believed him. You know?
Yeah.
And that makes a difference.
Unfortunately now, though, I feel like the past few elections is, if you were to ask most people who are voting what the policies are of either candidate, you're going to get a lot of blank faces, because there's not a lot of policy being discussed. And looking just pragmatically at the last two debates, right? Like I could probably count on my two hands, like how many policies have been directly addressed by both things, right? There's like a few issues that have been talked about, but there hasn't been anything like what you mentioned with Andrew Yang on that podcast, where he explains a little bit more in depth the structure, the procedure, how it's going to happen, where is it going to come from, and the whole process.
Yeah.
I don't think that happened once. Like,
I know.
There wasn't one time where that was fully thought out, right? And I think it's just because the two candidates are so widely different from each other, and the two audiences are so widely different, that there's no reason to talk policy. And in terms of from a campaigning perspective, there's no reason, because one side is trying to pull from the other side, and the other one is trying to pull from the other side. So all they have to do is just talk about something that will take away voters from the other party. That's all. That's all you want. That's all you have to do. Because at this point, because people are going to vote for who they want to vote for. So their policy at this point doesn't have as much of a play as that influence, and that's a shame to see. Really, it's a shame to see. Really, because you miss out on a lot. You're voting for the person instead of their policies, and I think that's a dangerous thing, because you're going in a little bit blind.
People are just voting for like they're just saying, I hate you more, and then the other person is saying, I hate you more.
Voting for the lesser of two evils. Like, yeah, I get that. I totally understand that, and I would rather people do that than not vote at all. But at the same time, man, like I wish. I wish it could be so much more simpler than that. But unfortunately, that's not the way the world works sometimes.
I know.
Oh, geez.
It probably wasn't like that before, but maybe just now.
No, definitely not. Yeah,
it's gone kind of out of hand, and like especially on Twitter, like I see like a lot of politics on there, and it's just two polarized groups going at each other. Like, I'll vote for Trump, I'm voting for Joe Biden, and then they just attack each other every time.
It's
like,
vicious. It's vicious out there.
Nobody comes together. Nobody comes together to compromise, and it just feels like their ideas are set in stone instead of being malleable, instead of like saying, okay, you have a good point there. Yeah. That's a pretty good idea. And then, working towards like a better solution,
Yeah. One debate that I was young, so I may not remember it as much, but it was Obama versus Romney. Like that's a debate where when I look back on it, I'm like, yes, there was quite a bit of discussion there. And I feel like that debate could have won people over, depending on the side, depending on who you like more, depending on what was discussed. And then this one was just so much more different. Like, I don't even know, like, what did we talk about again? Like, there wasn't, it was so much more messy, but like that was years ago. And I can look back and say, yeah, there was a discussion that happened there. And there were things and I was super young, and I can recognize that it's not the same for the debates nowadays. I feel like it's totally different. It wasn't about like winning people over. It was just about like keeping people away from the other one. Like, it was politics has become a lot more based on slander as it has on policy, and I'm not a big politics person, but like
All right. But like one thing that has brought people together is like the gaming community now. Like
Oh yeah.
I know you're big into games. You got the Discord server for us
Yeah.
and stuff. So
I got my controller right here.
yeah, what games have you been playing lately? I know Among Us is pretty
Oh
big
yeah,
right
super
now.
popular. Yeah, I love Among Us. But you know, one thing about Among Us, and I might get some flack for this, but it's a great game. But man, I cannot play it for like hours and hours because after hours and hours, I get like exhausting. Like, oh my god, the
Yeah,
lying, the deceiving, the trying to see through the fog. Like it's just in my brain. Like you know,
I
especially
know.
when you play it like 3 a.m. with friends. Like, oh, I can't do this. Like I have to take a break every once in a while. But I think it's a fun game, super fun game, and I love the fostering of content that it's done for streamers as well. Because all of a
Yeah,
sudden you have like PewDiePie in the same lobby as Toast. Like,
I know.
like how does that happen? Like that the collaboration of content has been really cool.
Yeah, I was watching Mr. Beast's video on it like
Yeah,
just
with
like 30
Dream.
minutes before this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. It's great. I think that's probably one of the coolest things about the game, like how it's, and I love it because you can play with friends, like 10 friends, which is a little bit like much more than most multiplayer games, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it's been Among Us, you know, and to be honest, to be 100% honest, a lot of what I've been doing recently, as it relates to games, is just hopping in a Discord and then just talking, like,
Yeah.
because yeah, sometimes yeah, because you know, games are great. I love playing video games. I used to play a lot of League. I
Mhm.
used to play a Rocket League actually is now free as well, not as opposed to like League of Legends, which is what I meant earlier.
Yeah.
And then there's Valorant. So I got into that recently too because some people wanted to play. And then Warzone is also really popular. There's a new Call of Duty coming out.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a lot of random things have been out, but I feel like maybe it's just me, but sometimes like I sit behind my computer, I have some free time. You know, I'm going to take a break from some work. I'm done for the day. And I'm just like, I don't like what game do I want to play? Like, cause I
Yeah.
have like all the games in front of me. And I'm like, I don't
Like
know. Like, I
what
don't,
do I feel like playing,
what do I feel like playing? Like, cause I played this. Nah, I played this. Nah, I played this. Like,
Mhm.
there could be all the video games in the world, and I'm like, I'm just not really feeling it.
I know.
Like that's because you know, that's all there is to do now. So I'm getting like a little bit bored of it. A little bit.
Mhm.
Like I finally reached that point where someone that loves video games, someone that is probably of their life has sunk thousands of hours into video games. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I just don't feel like playing. That's why I just love hopping in a Discord. And even if other people are playing games, I just sit there and just talk. And then I
Mhm.
scroll through Reddit and I'm just also talking through that. Like I think that's become a little bit more entertaining to me actually than playing the games themselves because it just gets a little bit repetitive sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, like just even talking to people is a fun thing about video games is the
It is. Yeah, it's one of
collaboration
my favorite
aspect.
parts of it. It's one of
Yeah,
my favorite parts about it. Yeah. Yeah,
mhm.
absolutely. And I feel like sometimes I just want to get that part as opposed to having to play the actual game itself. Because playing the actual game requires effort and you know skills, and you know you have to sit down and you have to focus, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just like, what if I just take away that part and I just focus on you know the talking with friends part? And I do
Mhm.
like doing that sometimes. But don't get me wrong, I love playing Among Us.
Yeah, yeah.
Among Us is fun. I still play, you know, run the squads on Warzone with my brother-in-law, my cousins, my
Mhm.
family, my friends, and I think that's really fun too. I think that's
Yeah.
really fun. And board games too.
Have you
Playing quite a bit of
always
those.
loved games and stuff? Like as a kid, you played games?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I do.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, Halo on my Xbox was like the first game that I played, and I started when I was
Yeah.
like, actually, no, the first game that I played. Oh, this is gonna be a throwback. If anybody knows what this is RuneScape. If anybody ever
RuneScape?
played RuneScape, it's like an MMO, which is like super old fashioned. I think like 2006, 2007. Um, that was the first game that I like actually took serious, and I was like 6 at that time.
Yeah.
So like, man, oh man, I remember RuneScape. But then, like I played a little bit of Halo a lot as a kid.
Mhm.
That's what I grew up on, and then,
Yeah, same. Like my cousin, he had an Xbox, like the first generation one,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
I just play with him,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
was fun. You know?
Whenever I used to go to my cousin's house, that's what we always used to do, man. Like the Xbox was there, right?
Yeah.
Borderlands. Let's see. I'm trying to think of like Star Wars Battlefront. I used to play a
Mhm.
ton of that. Like all those classic Xbox games. Like I remember I started at a young age, probably younger than I should have. Five is probably not a healthy amount to start getting into MMOs, like because those things are huge time sinks. Um, but you know, games have always had a pretty solid role. And I don't like to consider myself like a professional gamer either. Like I don't think I'm good enough at anything to be called like a professional gamer.
Professional,
But
yeah.
no, but I do like playing video games. I think it's a great way to just
I
to
know.
tune out and zone out, and I love that. And the thing about video games too is like pro and con is time flies when you play them, like dangerous amount, like dangerous
Yeah,
fast. Like you play one game of League and then you're like, shoot, the average time of a game is 30 minutes.
I know.
Like I played 2-3 games and there's like an hour and a half of my day and I'm only
Yeah,
awake for like, maybe like 12, no, like 14 hours a day. Right. So like, that's a lot of time. Like when you break
I
it
know.
down.
Hmm.
And it just
Yeah, but like when you're a
flies.
kid,
Yeah.
like you don't really think about like time
Oh,
management and
nah.
shit. So you just like
Nah.
play hours and
Yeah, dude.
hours.
Oh, Minecraft. Don't even get me started.
Yeah.
Sixth grade on the Minecraft servers, factions, if anybody knows what that is. Like you would make groups and clans on Minecraft servers and you would, build bases and defend them and raid other
Yeah.
bases and all that. Oh, hours. I used to
I know.
remember as a kid in sixth grade, seventh grade, where you don't have to worry too much about school or grades and all that.
Yeah.
I would wake up, I'd go to bed super late on Friday, wake up super early on Saturday, go to bed super late on Saturday, sleep in all of Sunday, and then do like whatever 3 things I had to do Sunday evening, and then get ready for school on Monday. Like
Yeah.
that would be my weekends, and no worries, no carefrees. Like going down out of my room to eat, it would drive my mom insane. My mom absolutely mad. But yeah, no, just simpler times.
I know. Yeah.
Simpler times.
I remember like at my cousin's house, he had the PS2, and whenever I would like sleep over at their house, like we'd play, like half our day would be spent on there, like just going through different games, and it brings you closer together too. Like they had like 4 controllers. It was like me, my brother, and my 2 cousins. We just play, and like we'd yell at each other. We'd like have fun, laugh, and it's just a bonding experience.
Oh my God. Totally. This is like a flashback for me too, because I would like, my parents didn't let me go on too many sleepovers as a kid. But like whenever I did have a sleepovers, most of the time I was with my cousins. So I'd go to my cousin's house and they had these like this small, like the size of my monitor. It's like a 720p TV, and we would hook it up to the Xbox, and then it would be like 11 p.m. and we turn off the lights and it's dark and you see this like bright TV screen and we're just all sitting there like sitting on some blankets and pillows that we set up in front of the TV, just playing like random games, like walking around, just super bored. But no, like those memories are killer. Like I totally get what you're saying. Those were definite bonding experiences. I totally remember that. Like those, like vividly in my head, I can easily recall those memories.
Yeah, same. Those are the good old times, just
the good old times.
no responsibilities yet, just having fun.
Don't get me started. And sometimes like responsibility is such an interesting concept, because now I feel like I'm constantly trying to look for time where I can get away from my responsibilities. But I mean, at the same time, I like to consider myself as a workaholic. Like no, actually, it's probably a bad thing to say about myself, but I work a lot. Like I'm a crazy busy person, all that sort of stuff, and I love it. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, same.
I know.
I love working.
Insane when they look at me, but I love working. Like it keeps me busy, keeps the time going. It keeps my brain running, and I always like being challenged and having to think about stuff. So I love working, but at the same time, it's always like whenever I'm not working and whenever I really want a break, I'm just trying to get away from all that. So I'm like on both sides of the spectrum all the time, and I always think that's like the weirdest thing. But yeah, getting away from responsibility and trying to get responsibility at the same time. And in my career, my academic career, my personal life, and all those sort of things. It's crazy. It's weird. Life is weird, man.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like, I think that's a good thing though. Like that, if you enjoy like what you do, like what your work is, if that's like your passion, like it's 100% okay to just like keep on doing it. But it has to be a balance,
Oh, it has to be a balance.
You can't just overwork yourself, because you're gonna put yourself in a rut, and you're gonna start blaming yourself. Like you're not gonna have creative ideas as much because you're just overworking your brain. So it has to be like a mix. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to be transparent when I say it. That's something I struggle with. Like I genuinely do, because I put myself in my environment and I start working and I let things pass me. Like in high school, excellent example. In high school, I really like put myself through the ringer. Like that would be something. I remember my freshman year of high school, I had such a heavy workload, and I would be in marching band, which takes hundreds of hours of the school year. It's insane. Like you have practices all of Saturday 9 to 9, and then you have Friday practices, you have Tuesday night practices, you have your Wednesday night sectionals, you have your one-on-ones on Thursday. Like every day I would have so much time, right? My parents would and rightfully so, they would get very angry at me, right? Because I would come home around like 10, take my shower and eat, and then start working, and then it's like 11, 12, 1, and the time flies and I'm working and I may be legitimately working, but my God, it's horrible for you. So I would do all that stuff during high school. And then now I'm much better at it because I have a lot more respect for my health and my mental well-being than I do, but I still find myself in those situations where like I'm really spreading myself a little bit too thin for too much for comfort, working a little bit too late. And I have to like fight myself to take myself away from that. Like, no, you need to, your cousins are having a barbecue on Saturday. Like you need to not just be at home. You need to not schedule that meeting. You need to go. You need to go. Like I'm trying to tell myself, but I'm like, no, like, yes, like do it. And that's like a constant battle I have. And, it's a fear too, like like a fear. I was gonna call it an irrational fear and I say irrational because I know it's something that I am constantly working on. Like I am conscious of that fact. So it's not irrational, but it is a fear that I have that I don't want to work myself so hard, like that I just forget about other things too. Like I want to be there for family and for friends and for activity. Like I want to be able to have dinner downstairs with my mom and dad. Like I don't want to just, snack in between my class, have a life, right? Yeah. Have a life. And I constantly, I'm still working on that. I'm still, cause I it's so easy. I always love saying yes to things. I always love doing things like what we were talking about. Like I love work. But yeah, no, it is a battle. It is a battle. It's something I'm working on. So yeah.
Yeah. Like even for me, like I love just like creating stuff, and I'd go, like there's a time where I went to the CSUF library and I worked, like I was editing a video and I worked for like 4 hours straight like, on a video. And so like, and so like that time, like I enjoyed it. Like I really enjoyed it, but I know that I need to schedule it better. Like instead of like 4 hours, I should just do like 2 hours and then go home and do whatever else I need to do.
Yeah, go home. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. That really resonates with me, honestly, because and even now too, like I do that all the time. Like we mentioned earlier, like work never stops when there's always stuff like I'm looking in the bottom left. I have like 3 new emails and I'm like, shoot. But I know after this, like, cause like I mentioned earlier, like I have family over, my sister's quarantining, right? So I've been doing a lot less work lately because because my schedule is always busy. It's nonstop, right? But I've been like I've been putting some things on pause just for a little bit so I can spend some time with my family. And believe me, like if I wasn't consciously making that decision, I would gladly be stuck here doing work. That's horrible. That's such a bad habit. So I'm glad that I'm working on that. Definitely. It's a work in progress for sure.
Yeah. I've learned like over like this past year how to better optimize my time too. Like just like stuff that I've been spending too much time on, like I'm just gonna put it for like this specific day. Let's get all this done, so I don't have to waste my whole week like doing like little bits of it, and just having a kind of routine. Like I don't like doing the same shit over again like every day. So I like to spice it up every day for me. So that works. Like I do that by just doing different shit. Like some days I schedule like a podcast like today, and I just do the podcast today and do other stuff and not school. And I schedule schoolwork some other time.
No, I totally get that. And what I was doing towards the beginning of the semester before it became a little bit hard to manage is that like Sundays I would focus on all my work for Monday through Friday, and then just get that done and out. And then Monday through Friday, I'd be able to not worry about homework or school, but I would be able to just do my other responsibilities. I'd go to my classes and I'd take my notes, or, I would respond to emails, schedule things for the extracurriculars that I'm a part of. Like that would be my work. Right. And then Sundays I would just like rip off the Band-Aid, get all the homework and schoolwork and reading done. But then that hasn't been as much feasible too, because I slowly realized that like some stuff is due on Saturdays. Some stuff is due like, Friday night, some stuff like I have to go to the class first to know what I'm doing before I do the homework. So that wasn't working as well as I wished it would. But yeah, I definitely block it. And that helps a lot too. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, that's a big part. And just like, just knowing what to expect. Like I keep a journal like of stuff I need to do. Like I write it down.
List.
To-do list. Like I just write all the shit I need to do in one day, and then I just do all of it.
You cross it off little by little.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the most satisfying thing. Yeah. Yeah, you cross it off. For me, for what my to-do list looks like is I have one, it's like a notepad on my desktop. So I always double tap in, I open it and I look at it, and it has all my classes and the next due date for each of those classes. Right. So if I have like a bunch on 10/18, 10/19, right. I like do one. So I only like, I still procrastinate a little bit, mostly just because like there's just so much to do sometimes.
Yeah.
But I do try, and I look at it and I try and make sure, because it's so much easier to visualize when you have it all in front of you, right? I'm like, okay, I have 3 things due on next Wednesday, so maybe I should do 1 or 2 of them now, and then that way every day when I double tap it, I only have 1 or 2 things that are immediate, right? And that's okay. I'm good.
Once you're overwhelmed, then you think like, oh, should I have so much stuff? Like I don't know which one to choose or what to do first, and then and the time is getting later and later, and you're just overthinking everything. So
that's what the organization comes key in there for. Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah. So you want to wrap it up there? It's been like almost an hour 10 minutes now.
Oh man, time flies when you're having fun.
It's crazy.
Yeah. That sounds good. Is there any last questions or things that I should mention? What do people usually do to wrap up here?
Nothing really. Like just, was it a fun time for you? Enjoyed it?
Absolutely. I had a blast. And I'd gladly do it again. Hopefully, maybe a little bit sooner than a year from now too, because God knows what's going to change since up until then. But
hopefully in person next time, so we could
in person. Yeah, if you ever have a spot for me, I can go ahead and just mention a couple things that I'm a part of. Yeah. So if any of you guys are interested in learning more about TEDx, which is something that I love doing, something I'm heavily invested in, I'm a part of a charity called MHI, who donates PPE to local hospitals, retirement homes, homeless shelters, and all those sort of things. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. And also, as it relates to recruiting, so me personally, I have my background in accounting. I'm going to be recruiting for consulting positions and all those sort of things. So if you want a quick resume review, cover letter review, happy to do that for any of Shyam's fans, any of that. So reach out to me, happy to do that. As it relates to college education as well, that's something that we talked about a ton, right, in our last podcast. So still doing that. So if you ever want any advice or anything at all, I can go ahead and just drop my email right here. So it's Saleem Haider, SALEEM HAIDER 01 at csu.fullerton.edu. So shoot me an email. Happy to be a resource for any of you guys. And I really appreciate for you giving me the time to be here, Shyam.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime, and you heard it there, folks. Like I'll even link it, link your social media and stuff, like whatever you want me to link. I'll link it below. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Next week, I'm actually going to Virginia, so I'll have like a different episode planned for that week. So look out for that. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you again, Saleem, for coming on. And we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.